Friend expects us to plan our holiday around her kids and is angry that we won't. My 30 female friend, Sarah, also 30 female, is a single mom with 2 kids. She's been going through a rough time after separating from her husband last year, and I've done my best to be there for her. My other close friend, Lena, and I have always accommodated Sarah's situation, visiting her at her house so she wouldn't have to go out, planning outings around her kids' needs, and being as flexible as possible. But recently, Lena and I decided to go on vacation together, just the 2 of us. When Sarah found out, she got very upset and told us that she had expected us to include her and her kids since we are her closest friends and she doesn't have many people to travel with. She also said that because she's in a difficult situation, she thought this was something we would do for her as her friends. Lena and I explained that while we love her and her kids, a vacation with them would be completely different from what we have in mind. We also offered to take a shorter trip with her and the kids, like a long weekend, but she dismissed that because she wanted a full week at the beach. She then said that she would have let me join if the roles were reversed. But to me, that's not a fair comparison. If I were tagging along on a vacation with her family, I'd be adapting to their plans. Whereas if she came with us, we would have to plan the whole trip around her kids. Sarah has now said that she doesn't know if our friendship will survive this, which I think is an extreme reaction. I understand that she's disappointed, but I don't think it's fair to guilt trip us into changing our plans. She's also acting like we're abandoning her when in reality, we've been incredibly accommodating for years. I feel bad that she's struggling, but at the end of the day, I don't think it's my responsibility to ensure she has someone to travel with. So am I the a-hole for not wanting to go on vacation with her and her kids? No. OP. You're not the a-hole. You and Lena are allowed to take a vacation that you want. And Sarah making your friendship conditional on you bringing her and her kids along is manipulative and unfair. I have to say, I do particularly like how she manipulative and unfair. I do particularly like how she tried to make you and Lena pay for her because, you know, her life is a struggle and you guys are her friends. But the reality is, OP, that you guys have already been incredibly accommodating and this trip isn't about her. You and Lena want a vacation for yourself, not something centered around her kids, which is absolutely okay to want. Sarah is making this personal when it's not. So if I was you, I would stand your ground. She's the one holding the relationship hostage. Well, let her execute it then. So basically, call her bluff. And what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments section. And now let's move on to the community comments. Mio1 says, the other option is to let her come, but you don't change your plans. This could call for some malicious compliance. Oh, the kids need to go to bed. Have fun. We will be at the bar, nightclub, whatever. And OP responds, we did consider the idea of letting her come along while still sticking to our original plans, but realistically, I don't think it'd work. If we went out at night while she had to stay in with the kids, she'd likely feel excluded even if she claims now that she wouldn't mind. And honestly, Lena and I both know we wouldn't actually be able to go through with it. We're softies. And if we saw her upset or struggling, we'd just end up feeling guilty and changing our plans anyway. So in the end, it would either lead to her feeling left out or us compromising our own vacation. That's exactly why we felt it was better to just be upfront about our decision rather than setting ourselves up for a situation where no one is truly happy. Objective Worker 6021 says, definitely not, and if I'm going to the beach as a 27 female myself for a week, I don't want to be around kids, especially kids that aren't mine. It's time to relax, drink, explore, and do my own thing, not having to worry about kids or not being able to do what I want to do. Plus, that's an expensive vacation to not get to fully enjoy because your friend and her kids wanted to tag along. And if she can't understand that, then I really wouldn't care if the friendship survived at that point. Delicious Pick 6971 says, not the a-hole. I don't understand how this woman thinks friendship works. Was she expecting you to babysit? Are you not allowed to have other friends? This is confusing. And OP responds, she said she doesn't expect us to help with her kids, but realistically, that is near impossible. We love the kids, and if they went up to us wanting our attention or help or if we saw her struggling, we would never tell them to just F off. We had a similar situation at our New Year's Eve party where she insisted on bringing the kids, and at the end, we did end up helping her with them, so we know it just wouldn't work. Additional information from Ops comments. First of all, I want to make it clear that I worded our intentions poorly. We actually haven't planned anything yet. Last year, Sarah alluded to wanting to go on vacation with us and the kids. Lena and I took time to think it over, and we ultimately decided if we were to go on any potential vacation, it would be without kids. When Sarah recently asked if we wanted to start planning our trip, she pretty much just invited herself and the kids. That's when we were upfront with her and told her we couldn't see ourselves going on vacations with the kids. It's not like we secretly made plans and excluded her. We just set a boundary about the kind of vacation we wanted. I'm an early childcare educator, So I assume you all understand why I need some time away from kids. Also, things were no different when she was married. Her husband worked all the time, so every time we met up with her, everything revolved around her kids and their needs, and asking him to take the kids so Sarah can come won't happen. He's a bit of an who cheated on her and only takes the kids when it's convenient for him. However, she doesn't even want to ask him though. She's adamant about not wanting to go on vacation without her kids. I think she's also used to putting her kids' needs above hers at all times, and it's almost compulsive at times how she needs to have them around for her to feel okay. Like, her son has slept like crap ever since he was born. Now that she's separated from her husband and he takes the kids sometimes, you'd figured she'd be relieved that she gets the opportunity to have a good night's rest, but instead, she says she doesn't sleep well when the kids aren't at home even though they're with their father. I guess while I do work with kids, I'm not a mother. So maybe this is just a bond I don't understand yet. But as I said before, it was the same issue with New Year's Eve. She didn't even want to try and find someone to watch them because she didn't want to spend New Year's Eve without them even though they're literal toddlers, 3 and 1.5, and don't even understand the concept of New Year's Eve. I think she wants to have it both ways. She wants to be a good mom by never leaving her kids with others, but now that her husband has left, she's dealing with fear of missing out and doesn't want to feel alone. I suppose even though she technically has company in her kids, being the only adult can still feel lonely. As sad as I sometimes am about still being single, I would not want to swap with her at all, and I truly feel deeply sorry about this situation she has been put in. I think her kids and her deserve the world, and I hope she'll find someone who'll do that for them sooner rather than later. I just wish she'd understand that just because we don't want to go on vacation with her and the kids, that doesn't mean we don't feel for her or love her. Finally, I want to clarify that she doesn't expect us to pay for her and the kids, but I think in her head, she expected us to share a room with them so we can split the cost for that, which is also something I don't want, especially considering her son who's not even 2 yet isn't a great sleeper, so he'll be up plenty at night. The community agrees that OP is not the a-hole and we definitely got a lot of context so we get the full story. Now let's move on to the update to see how this story ends. She has just sent me a 12-minute voice note ending our 10-year friendship because she thinks we should have celebrated New Year's Eve at her home with her kids, and that we should take this trip with her to cheer her up, and that the friendship wasn't on equal terms. I sent her the following message last night. If it sounds a little weird, it's because it's translated into English from my first language. I know she won't be able to accept whatever I said, but to be honest, I did it more for me because I was getting sick of letting her rewrite the narrative unchallenged even though I feel bad about it. So here's the message. I'm sorry that you see it like that. I do understand that you're going through an incredibly tough time, and it was absolutely never our intention to leave you behind. But to me, friendship doesn't mean that everything always has to revolve around one person, even if they're going through a hard time. We tried to find compromises both on New Year's Eve and with a vacation, but it feels like it has to be exactly the way you imagine it or not at all. And honestly, that doesn't feel like an equal friendship to me either. Of course, I can understand that you feel excluded, but that was never my intention either. There are simply moments when, as someone without kids, I want to spend time without children. You always emphasize that your kids are a part of you, which is, of course, your decision, but it also means that sometimes you can't have both. If you never really ask yourself whether there are alternatives because you assume from the start that you always have to or want to have your kids with you, then that's your choice. But you can't expect others to always go along with that decision. I think it's really sad that you want to end our 10-year friendship over this because you mean a lot to me. But if this is what you've decided for yourself, then I have no choice but to respect that. I still hope that at some point, we can find our way back to each other, and I wish you and the kids all the best. OP, I think your message was spot on, but I also agree with you that I don't think she's going to understand what you're trying to tell her. But at least you've said your piece and you can move on. Hopefully, as you say, you guys can rekindle your friendship somehow. In the meantime, here's wishing you the best. Take care and thanks for sharing. And now, let's move on to the next post that also has an update. This post is from the subreddit Relationships, and it's by user KirbyV91. Told my boyfriend I loved him right after we had sex. How badly did I mess up? I, 33 female, recently started dating this wonderful man, 37 male, and we've been boyfriend and girlfriend for about 2 months. I don't want to get into my history too much, but I've never had a boyfriend before. When I was 15, I got pregnant, had my son, then got kicked out of my home. So my son and I started living with my uncle whom I now call Dad. I've gone on dates here and there, but nothing has ever stuck like this. I've also never felt this way about another human being before. Tonight, I was at his place and we had dinner and then we went to his bedroom and had sex. Afterwards, like right after we both climaxed, I melted into his arms, then looked at him and I said, "I love you." He just kinda looked back at me like he didn't really know what to say, and I internally started panicking. So I immediately told him he didn't have to say it back and tried to backpedal a little bit by saying, maybe I didn't know and maybe I was just riding the emotions. He told me I didn't have to backtrack and he was really happy I felt that way. Before he could really articulate a response, I forcibly asked him if we could just forget it and move on. He said it was okay with him and we just cuddled together for a while before I said it was getting late and I should head home. When I got to my car, I drove down the road, pulled over and then started crying. I felt so embarrassed and so stupid for saying that, and at that time no less. I also have some pretty serious abandonment issues for obvious reasons given my past, so I'm really scared he's going to leave me. It's been a wonderful 2 months, and I feel like this part of me I didn't know was there before is complete. He has told me I make him feel his worth as a human being who deserves love, and I felt very secure in this relationship up until this point. Please, if anyone has any help or guidance, I would greatly appreciate it. I just really wish I could go back in time and smack myself in the face before I said that. OPU did nothing wrong. Saying I love you after 2 months, especially in a moment of deep intimacy, is not embarrassing, stupid, or something to regret. It's human. You finally found someone who makes you feel safe and valued. You saying I love you makes perfect sense. So take a breath and cut yourself some slack. Your feelings are absolutely valid. Love doesn't work on a rigid timeline. Some people feel it fast, some take longer, but there's no right or wrong time to say it. Also, your boyfriend didn't react negatively. He didn't panic, reject you, or pull away. He reassured you that he was happy that you felt that way. I think that's a green flag. So do yourself a favor and don't let your fear take over. It sounds like your past trauma is making you believe that expressing love will lead to abandonment, but just know that is not the norm. And what do you guys think? What would you say to OP? Let me know in the comments section, and now let's check out the community comments. Wiggly Worm Turn says, it's fine. I'm sure he's totally flattered. Just leave it. Stop overthinking and give yourself some time to process. You were vulnerable and that's really great. That's one foundation for being a good partner. I'm a big believer in say what you feel. And OP responds, I haven't talked to him since. He sent me a good morning. Beautiful text I get every morning, but I didn't respond. Kia Synth 0788 says, did you really mean it when you said you love him? I feel it takes time to really get to know someone, and 2 months seems very short to know someone deep enough and to know you love them. He seemed to have taken it well, and he tried to be reassuring. He even told you that you do not need to be ashamed, so at least be reassured about that. If you feel your feelings are sincere and you love him, just be honest and open. Where you both are at in a relationship should not depend on him. If you feel you are already at a stage where you genuinely feel you love him, so be it. It's not a bad thing if he is not there yet. Give him time. What's important is that it seemed he was receptive of your feelings and seems like he likes you too, but probably not at the stage of love yet. He did not draw away from you or make things awkward. He seemed to have a mature and positive response. And OP responds, I've never felt true love, so I can't say for sure, but I know I've never felt this way about another human being, and I've never felt on this level with anyone else in my entire life. So I'm willing to take the gamble that I do. Our first date was partially unintended. It's a long story, but I went over to his place and we started talking and then had sex. Then we stayed up for the entire rest of the night talking. When we woke up, we continued talking and did this for the entirety of the weekend. Seriously, I got there Friday night and left Sunday afternoon. Knucklehead 12 says, it doesn't sound like there's anything wrong. You said it because you felt it and without the expectation of him saying it back. He didn't say it back, but the way he did response was also good. Then you asked him to forget it. So you need to as well and continue your relationship as if you never said it. He'll say it when the time's right or he won't, but neither will be because of your decisions tonight. And Product says, I told a girlfriend that I loved her during sex, and we'd only been going out for 2 months. She didn't say it back. In fact, she said, you know I can't say that back. She's now my wife and we've been happily married for 8 years with a 6-year-old kid. Edit, she said, you know I can't say that back because she'd been hurt super bad during her previous relationship and breakup. It was a long time prior, but it was a 6-year relationship with 1-year engagement. I think the community came through with OP to talk her down. So let's move on to the update and see how this story ends. So I, 33 female, made a post the other night about how I'm with my first ever boyfriend, 37 male, and I told him right after we had sex that I loved him and he didn't immediately say it back. So I freaked out and tried to backtrack before shutting him down and saying I wanted to move on. I left shortly after and just shut myself out from him for most of the next day. This morning, I got a text message from him that said he misses me and would really love to go out tonight. So I figured, what the hell? And we went out. While we were out, there was a moment during dinner that I reached over and held his hand and told him I was sorry I ignored him and told him about my abandonment issues and how self-destructive I can be when I'm scared people will leave me. I'm sure it'll come as absolutely no shock to anyone that he was lovely and patient with me. We went back to his place and were snuggling and I was starting to fade away to sleep. Then he said, "Love you. Beautiful." Beautiful is his pet name for me. Corny, but he says it's very fitting. Lol. I stopped and then looked over at him, and then he said, "You don't have to say it back." I said, "But what if I want to say it back?" And he told me to go ahead and I said, "I love you too." I rolled over on him and gave him a nice long kiss and then put my forehead on his forehead and started crying a little bit. I cannot tell you how badly I've wanted to say that to someone since I was 14, and it doesn't even feel real. Feels like some dream I had that was nice but didn't happen. Riding this emotional high, I can't sleep, so I'm riding this while he's sleeping next to me. I have to get up in 4 hours to have enough time to go back home and get ready for work, but I don't care. One bad day of crap sleep is forgettable. I'm gonna remember this night for the rest of my life. It's way too soon for this, but I'm already getting giddy about putting my name in front of his last name. So yeah, I'm in love, you guys. Well, OP, good for you. I'd suggest live in the present and enjoy it fully. Take one step at a time, but overall, really happy for you. Oh, Pete, take care and thanks for sharing. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy, and if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later and also don't forget to hit that subscribe button.